These are the hardest jumps in Minecraft history. Now, you might recognize some of these jumps as something you've completed before. However, one of these jumps has only been completed by one player ever. You see, I spoke to multiple parkour experts about the history of Minecraft parkour, but as we talked, I realized the most difficult jumps aren't known to the public. So to cover everything, I'm gonna reveal the hardest parkour jump for every year, and to see which is the most difficult, I'll be ranking them on a tier list. So let's start with the hardest jump from 2009. Now, unlike modern parkour, the first ever parkour map from 2009 was fairly easy. The hardest jump from this map was the water-to-water jump. All you have to do is swim from one water block to the other, making it a pretty simple jump worthy of F tier. But these simple jumps wouldn't last long in the parkour world, because in 2011, the hardest jump became the 4-block jump. I think everybody hates this jump to an extent, but it first became possible when Minecraft added sprinting, which was in 2011. With no momentum, it actually is somewhat difficult, especially for the average player, making it a solid E-tier jump. But it was after the year 2011 where the parkour community ran into a big problem. You see, after speaking to parkour legends who have been in the community for over a decade, they informed me that the early years of parkour are not well documented, especially the years 2012 and 2013. But the hardest jumps from 2012 and 2013 are most likely the single Neo, the double Neo, and the triple Neo. These jumps are demonic. The name Neo is a reference to the Matrix. Since you jump around the block to make the jump, it's meant to be similar to how Neo dodges bullets. Now, alright, the single Neo, fine, easy enough. The double Neo, not bad, both from 2012, I give it D tier. But the triple Neo, yeah, I couldn't do it. I'll put it at the top of D tier. And if you thought these Neos were hard, some maniac, some freak of nature, decided to make them even harder. The hardest jumps from 2014 and 2015 are just more difficult versions of the Neo. In 2014, it was the 2-block 1-up Neo. Now, not only do you need to jump around 2 blocks, but you need to go up 1. I can't do that. I think it's very fair to give it a C tier. But the hardest jump from 2015 is way harder, because if you couldn't tell, there's 2 ladders on the side. Yep, it's a ladder Neo. The ladder Neo was first documented by a player named Skyhawk, and let me just say, this jump is demonic. With no momentum, you have to jump from one ladder all the way around to the other. It easily deserves to be at the top of C tier. And while these Neos are impressive, the hardest jump from 2016 is simply shocking, because it's the 5-block jump. Now, you might recognize the 5-block jump from Dream's more popular video in 2019. However, the 5-block jump was first discovered by a parkour legend named Cairo in 2016. And while it did rely on a head hitter for momentum, it laid the foundation for the 5-block jump without the head hitter that Dream would make a video about in the future. The 5-block jump belongs at the top of C tier. It is difficult, but doesn't give modern parkour pros a problem. That being said, trying to find out the hardest jump from 2017 resulted in a big problem. You see, while the jumps from 2012 and 2013 were just not documented properly, the year 2017 is different, in that the parkour experts I consulted had different answers for what the hardest jump for that year is. So, limiting it down to one myself, the hardest jump from 2017 is the piston double triple Neo. Yes, it sounds like a fast food order. In total, it's 2 triple Neos in a row. Don't think that's hard? Well, I'm not done. You also have to press a button on each of them to activate the piston to land on. On top of all of this, you have basically no room on top of the piston to stand on, making this jump require very good timing. I don't even want to show you the footage of me attempting it. You should subscribe to make me feel better. Please? So 2017 goes in B tier, which makes sense, but after this jump was when in 2018, a prominent figure in the parkour community verified some of the most insane jumps. The hardest jump from 2018 was verified by a player named Fire Dreadlord. He did a 1-block Neo starting from a single fence. Because a fence is smaller than a normal block, he's jumping around almost double the distance of a normal Neo, with no momentum. So while I do think 2018 deserves B tier beneath 2017, 2017, Fire Dreadlord also created the hardest jump in 2019 with a glass pane Neo. Now, granted, he used some momentum going into the jump, but either way, a glass pane is even smaller than a fence, making this way more difficult. I'd easily say this is a bit harder than the fence Neo, but still deserves B tier. And yet, this jump gets even harder. The hardest jump from 2020 was a Neo from a player head to another player head. And I'm not even joking. It was verified by a player named Rex who I spoke about this video with, and it's even harder than the Pain Neo. With the momentum, you need to turn much more in order to land the jump. Considering the small amount of people who have even been able to complete this jump, it definitely deserves A tier. But the Neo doesn't stop here, because the slab to fence Neo is the hardest jump from 2021. Now, we know that the fence is smaller in width than a normal block, which makes this difficult, but having to go up an entire block makes this jump insanely more difficult. I would put this jump just below the head-to-head Neo at A tier, but arguably the greatest accomplishment in parkour history was founded in 2022. The Quad 45 is the hardest jump from 2022 by far. This jump technically ranges 5 blocks, but with the ladder on the last block and the chest on the opposite side, it's possible by exactly 0.00067th of a block. Yeah. It was verified by a player named Lapis Lala after hundreds of hours of attempts. This jump is crazy, yeah. But get this, every single time he turns 45 degrees, like this, he isn't actually having a muscle spasm, it's actually a technique used to gain 2.04% momentum. You see, he needed to make exactly 4 of these 45-degree turns to gain enough momentum to make the jump. This jump is debatably one of the hardest ever. It would be a crime not to put it in S tier. And with that, we're now brought to the final 2 jumps from 2023 to 2024, which are the hardest of them all, including one that's only been completed by 1 player. But first, for literally 30 seconds, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Southern New Hampshire University, a university with one of the largest accredited non-profit online degree offerings in the country. SNHU offers a game development program where you'll learn 3D modeling and texturing with game art software, and it's radically affordable. Their online tuition rates are some of the lowest in the nation. If you're interested in learning more, go to snhu.edu/Beary and request free information about the program. Anyways, back to the hardest jump from 2023, the 8x8 Sexta Neo. With this jump, we are using the same concept as the last jump, the Quad 45, to get enough momentum to jump 8 blocks around this wall and 8 blocks down. This took the player, KRitty2, over 50 hours of non-stop attempts to do once. This jump, without a question, deserves to be an S tier, and in my opinion, above the normal Quad 45. Bringing us to the final hardest jump in 2024. The Sidewall Piston Butterfly Neo 1 block has only been completed by 1 player named 1BMM. Starting on a piston, he needs to jump all the way around 2 glass panes onto the other end of the piston. Yeah, that is by far the most ridiculous jump I've ever seen. It's at the top of S tier. So those are the hardest jumps in Minecraft, objectively, but subjectively, nah bro, the quad jump solos. Alright, I got this. Oh my god!